The glittering lights of late-night television have long served as America's ultimate cultural comfort zone, a place where the pressures of the day melt away into comfortable laughter, charming anecdotes, and carefully rehearsed charm. For decades, the format has remained virtually unchanged, acting as a trusted sanctuary where celebrities come to polish their public images and viewers tune in to feel connected to the glamorous world of Hollywood. The hosts of these programs are meticulous curators of public emotion, driving conversations that are designed to entertain without truly disrupting the status quo. It is a finely tuned machine, built on the unspoken agreement that the couch is a space for celebration, not confrontation. Within this ecosystem, the audience develops a profound sense of familiarity with the figures who enter their living rooms every evening, trusting that the laughter is genuine and that the platform itself represents a standard of collective decency. Yet beneath this bright surface lies a complex landscape of power dynamics, industry gatekeeping, and shifting moral boundaries that often leave the public questioning where the line between entertainment and accountability truly sits. As you watch these seemingly effortless interactions unfold, we invite you to take a moment to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the changing dynamics of media, celebrity culture, and the unexpected controversies that reshape the entertainment industry behind the scenes. The question of who deserves a seat under those studio lights has increasingly become a battleground for modern cultural values, revealing a deep friction between the pursuit of television ratings and the ethical demands of a changing society. The traditional late-night platform, once considered an untouchable pillar of mainstream entertainment, now finds itself under an intense microscope as audiences demand greater transparency regarding the individuals who are granted the privilege of speaking to millions of homes. This scrutiny is not merely about political differences or artistic preferences, but rather about the fundamental messages that television networks broadcast to the world when they choose to elevate certain figures while casting others into the shadows. The mechanics of the industry ensure that every guest appearance is a highly calculated decision, vetted by producers' publicists, and executives who weigh the potential backlash against the undeniable allure of high viewership numbers and viral internet engagement. When that calculation goes wrong, the fallout can ripple across the entire media landscape, shattering the illusion of wholesome entertainment and forcing a painful re-examination of the industry's unspoken rules. For generations, the public accepted the curated reality presented to them on their screens, but the rise of digital interconnectedness has empowered viewers to challenge the gatekeepers of late-night television, transforming passive consumption into active accountability. This evolving dynamic has created a landscape where a single interview can ignite a massive firestorm, transforming a routine promotional segment into a lightning rod for broader societal debates about justice, privilege, and the uneven distribution of professional redemption. The tension is palpable as industry veterans and casual viewers alike wrestle with the realization that the glowing screen in the living room is no longer an escape from the complexities of the real world, but rather a direct reflection of its most painful contradictions. As the boundaries of public tolerance continue to shift, the decisions made within executive suites of major television networks are no longer protected by the walls of the studio, instead becoming the subject of fierce public debate and moral reckoning. This underlying friction sets the stage for a dramatic collision between the traditional power players of the entertainment capital and a vocal contingent of critics who refuse to let the glamour of the spotlight obscure the harsh realities of human conduct. It is a story about the weight of words, the value of a platform, and the stark contrast between those who are welcomed back into the cultural fold with open arms and those who find themselves permanently locked outside the gates of mainstream acceptance. The unfolding debate exposes the fragile nature of celebrity status in the modern era, demonstrating how quickly the warmth of public adoration can turn into a chilling storm of controversy when the choices of a beloved host clash with the moral expectations of the audience. To understand the depth of this unfolding narrative, one must look beyond the immediate headlines and examine the historical patterns of late-night television, where the desire for spectacular moments has frequently tested the boundaries of public decorum. The spotlight has an extraordinary capacity to sanitize reputations, to reframe complex narratives into digestible anecdotes, and to offer a path to redemption that is rarely available to ordinary individuals outside the realm of celebrity. This reality creates a profound sense of disillusionment among those who watch the powerful navigate the world with a different set of rules, sparking a collective demand for consistency in an industry notorious for its shifting allegiances. The stage is set for an intense examination of these systemic double standards, as prominent voices within the entertainment community begin to break their silence, challenging the decisions of influential hosts and demanding a reassessment of what it truly means to hold a position of public trust. The unfolding controversy is not an isolated incident, but rather the culmination of years of growing resentment toward a system that often appears to value spectacle over substance and engagement metrics over ethical responsibility. As the narrative builds, the focus shifts toward a specific evening that sent shockwaves through the viewing public, a moment where the carefully constructed boundary of late-night comfort was thoroughly shattered, leaving an audience to grapple with a profound sense of betrayal and confusion. The storm that followed was not just about a single guest or a single interview, but about the systemic structures that allow controversial figures to reclaim their platforms while others are left to wander the wilderness of professional exile. It is an exploration of the invisible lines that dictate who is allowed to speak, who is forced to listen, and how the architecture of modern media continues to shape our understanding of accountability in an increasingly fractured cultural landscape. The delicate facade of late-night television experienced a profound and unsettling rupture when viewers tuned into the legendary program hosted by Jimmy Fallon, only to find the controversial Irish mixed martial arts star Conor McGregor occupying the coveted guest couch. For many watching at home, the sight was not merely surprising but deeply jarring, occurring a mere 19 months after a momentous legal decision in November 2024. In that highly publicized civil case, a Dublin jury found that McGregor had physically assaulted a woman named Nikita Hand inside a local hotel room during an incident that took place in December 2018. The legal proceedings had concluded with the sports icon being ordered to pay a staggering sum of over £200,000 in damages to the victim, who had courageously come forward with harrowing accusations of a brutal assault. Throughout the intense legal battle, the athlete had vehemently denied every single allegation leveled against him, maintaining the stance that the encounter between them had been entirely consensual from start to finish. However, after listening closely to 8 consecutive days of emotional and highly detailed evidence, the jury deliberated for more than 6 hours before ultimately returning a decisive verdict that validated the victim's traumatic claims. The evidence presented during that trial painted an incredibly grim and unforgettable picture of the events, deeply shaking those who followed the details of the case as they emerged in court. Nikita Hand provided agonizing testimony describing how the athlete pinned her down to a bed, leaving her with extensive and visible bruising along with painful abrasions across her entire body. Her testimony included specific details of a scratch on her breast and severe tenderness around her neck area, which she explained was the direct result of being placed in a terrifying chokehold during the encounter. The severity of the situation was further emphasized by the emergency response teams who arrived at the scene to transport the injured woman to the medical facility via ambulance. A responding paramedic later testified under oath before the court, stating with profound gravity that they had not seen an individual so severely bruised in a long period of professional service. Additional medical testimony from the Sexual Assault Treatment Unit provided even more shocking and clinical details regarding the physical toll of the assault. Dr. Daniel Kane recounted the medical necessity of utilizing forceps to remove a tampon from deep within the victim's body because it had become heavily wedged inside her during the struggle. The physician also confirmed to the court that the examination revealed a highly probable internal tear along with a staggering multiplicity of moderate to severe injuries scattered across her entire physical frame. Despite the clarity of these findings and the subsequent loss of a civil jury appeal by the athlete in July 2025, the mainstream entertainment apparatus appeared to quickly look the other way. The decision by producers to feature him on such a prominent platform triggered an immediate, fierce, and widespread backlash that spread across major social media networks like wildfire. Countless users expressed absolute disbelief that an individual with such a documented history of violence could be welcomed onto a family-friendly network show with smiles, high fives, and casual banter. The viral outrage quickly caught the attention of high-profile figures within the entertainment industry itself, who found it impossible to remain silent in the face of what they perceived as a massive moral failure. Celebrated actor Christina Ricci was among the prominent voices who decided to publicly align themselves with the growing wave of digital condemnation. Taking to her personal social media platform, she shared a widely circulated post that directly and aggressively took the late-night host to task for his editorial choices. The message she amplified spared no details, explicitly reminding the public of the physical brutality documented by the emergency medical technicians and the horrific nature of the injuries sustained by the victim. Her public statement demanded to know why an individual described in the harshest possible terms was being granted a massive promotional platform to charm millions of viewers, concluding with the searing expression of shame directed entirely at the host. The tension grew even thicker as the public began to contrast this warm reception with the harsh treatment experienced by other public figures who had crossed less severe boundaries. This collective anger highlighted a profound and systemic issue within the broader entertainment industry regarding who is granted immediate forgiveness and who is permanently cast aside by the networks. The controversy quickly evolved from a localized internet debate into a much larger conversation about the invisible structures that protect powerful men while minimizing the trauma of victims. As the digital outcry intensified, it became increasingly clear that the audience was no longer willing to accept the passive normalization of abusive behavior under the guise of casual celebrity promotion. The contrast between the glamorous, light-hearted energy of the television studio and the clinical reality of the Dublin courtroom created a deeply uncomfortable cognitive dissonance for millions of viewers. This discomfort eventually paved the way for other prominent industry veterans to step forward, adding their own personal experiences of professional exile to the conversation and exposing the staggering double standards that dictate the survival of a career in the modern media landscape. The entrance of legendary comedian Kathy Griffin into this boiling cultural discourse adds an entirely new layer of complexity. Shedding light on the entertainment industry's deeply selective memory and its arbitrary enforcement of professional exile, Griffin does not speak merely as a passive observer watching the controversy unfold from a distance, but rather as someone who has personally occupied the absolute epicenter of public condemnation and experienced the total devastation of modern career cancellation. Her history with the network and her familiarity with the late-night apparatus provide her with a unique perspective on the unspoken rules that govern who is allowed to remain in the spotlight and who is permanently cast out into the wilderness of professional irrelevance. In a deeply personal and candid video message shared across her social media channels, she openly reflected on the fact that she has not been invited to grace the stage of the program since it occupied its much later midnight broadcasting slot many years ago. This long-standing absence led her to the inevitable and sobering conclusion that she has been quietly blacklisted by executive producers or deemed far too provocative and risky for the safe, corporatized boundaries of contemporary network television. She took the time to meticulously illuminate the silent, invisible mechanics of how mainstream media exclusion operates in the modern era, explaining to her audience that network executives almost never possess the courage to explicitly inform a performer that they have been banned from a show. Instead, the system relies on a passive strategy of polite avoidance, where booking agents and producers suddenly find themselves completely unable to locate an available opening in the calendar or fashion a suitable segment to accommodate the artist. This quiet institutional freezing out stands in staggering, painful contrast to the extravagant red carpet treatment and warm, jovial receptions extended to individuals whose documented actions carry profound legal and moral consequences, exposing a deep and undeniable hypocrisy within the cultural gatekeeping apparatus that determines who deserves a voice, despite the reality of her own long-standing exclusion from the airwaves. Griffin was careful to clarify that she harbors no inherent personal malice or deep-seated animosity toward the host himself, recounting their past professional encounters with a genuine sense of warmth and describing him as a colleague who was always exceptionally kind, polite, and welcoming to her during the earlier chapters of their respective careers. This explicit lack of personal vengeance lends an even greater weight and authority to her critique, as she frames the recent incident to invite the controversial athlete onto the program not as a minor lapse in personal judgment, but as a massive institutional failure on the part of the entire production team and the network leadership. by providing a highly visible, prestigious platform to an individual who was recently held liable by a civil jury in a deeply disturbing and physically brutal assault case. The show effectively broadcasts a devastating and alienating message to women and marginalized communities across the globe. This editorial choice reinforces a historic and painful societal narrative that the safety, bodily autonomy, and basic human dignity of victims are ultimately secondary to the relentless pursuit of high television ratings, digital clicks, and viral internet engagement. Griffin argued with immense passion that when individuals with such heavily documented histories of severe violence are welcomed onto these light-hearted, family-friendly programs, they are effectively granted a form of casual cultural absolution and institutional redemption. They are allowed to charm the public, promote their business ventures, and be celebrated in front of millions of households, while the individuals who survived their actions are left to carry the immense, invisible burden of their trauma in silence and isolation. Completely forgotten by the mainstream media apparatus that prioritizes entertainment value over ethical responsibility, this deeply entrenched pattern of prioritizing sensational entertainment value and shocking celebrity star power over fundamental ethical standards is not an entirely unprecedented phenomenon in the long history of this particular late-night television franchise, as Griffin sharply reminded her viewers by drawing a direct, uncompromising line to previous controversial decisions made by the network's leadership over the past decade. She recalled the immense public discomfort and widespread cultural backlash that surrounded the infamous autumn evening where the host playfully and casually tousled the hair of a highly polarizing political candidate during a critical phase of a major national election campaign. That specific moment was widely condemned by media critics who felt it served to humanize and normalize a figure who had openly bragged about engaging in predatory behavior toward women, treating serious societal concerns as nothing more than a light-hearted joke for the evening news. Furthermore, she pointed to the calculated executive decisions made by influential industry titans like Lorne Michaels, who chose to have that exact same controversial figure host Saturday Night Live during a highly contested election cycle, demonstrating a long-standing corporate willingness to exploit high-profile societal division and intense controversy for the singular purpose of securing historic viewing figures and dominating the global media conversation. For Griffin, these historical echoes serve as undeniable evidence that the mainstream entertainment industry has consistently failed to establish a stable moral compass, repeatedly proving that it will gladly sacrifice long-term social responsibility for the sake of short-term algorithmic engagement and immediate corporate profitability, standing before her audience as a self-described survivor of the ultimate form of professional banishment. Griffin boldly labeled herself as one of the most thoroughly canceled celebrities in modern entertainment history, using her own scars to urge the public and the industry gatekeepers to finally establish a consistent, logical, and compassionate standard for public accountability. Her powerful plea serves as a direct and urgent challenge to the superficial, reactionary nature of contemporary internet culture, demanding that society stop weaponizing the concept of cancellation against artistic missteps, political provocations, or controversial satire, while simultaneously shielding and validating powerful individuals who have caused genuine, measurable physical and psychological harm to other human beings. The intense and growing backlash surrounding the late-night appearance serves as a potent reminder that the media platforms we choose to support and the individuals we choose to elevate are a direct, unvarnished reflection of our true collective values as a society. The public refusal to let this moment pass without severe criticism demonstrates a profound shift in audience expectations, proving that modern viewers are no longer willing to quietly accept an entertainment system that minimizes violence and erases the reality of victims for the sake of casual late-night amusement. In a world that is continuously striving toward genuine progress, safety, and equality, the collective call to do better resonates far beyond the soundproof walls of a television studio, standing as an urgent, non-negotiable demand for a more just, empathetic, and truly accountable media landscape that protects the vulnerable and honors the truth. For anyone who is currently enduring the profound trauma of sexual assault, or for those who are seeking a safe path toward healing, justice, and comprehensive support, vital and completely confidential resources remain constantly available through the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-4673, a dedicated service that instantly connects individuals with compassionate, professional care providers in their local communities, ensuring that no one is ever forced to navigate the long and difficult journey of survival entirely on their own.